Good evening. It's lovely to have you on board this evening. It's lovely to get this opportunity to speak to you. This first call or masterclass of the year of 2015. Woohoo! Now, there's a few of you that I have seen that generally come quite regularly, and I'm so thankful to have you on board today. And some of you are new. And I'm glad to have you on board as well this evening. It's really great to start this new year ready and feeling all woohoo about it. And you know, I like to use the word woohoo, but it's really good to have you on board. Okay, so this evening we're going to be talking about how to fight for the business that you want. The idea here is that ultimately it is for people, whether you're in network marketing, whether you're in property, whether you're in a business of your own, selling your own products or selling other people's products or services or books. Maybe you've written a book, maybe you've written music that you want to promote and get out there. And this is your year of acceleration, whatever that means to you. Whether you're just a professional looking to transition out of your job and ultimately create a business that replaces that income so that you actually start to do things that you want to do rather than just doing a job that just pays the mortgage or whatever. This webinar, this masterclass that I'm putting on is for you. This is the first one of the year. This is the first week of the year. Most people have just returned to work maybe a few days ago, depending on what country you're in, of course. And yeah, maybe last year was okay, but nowhere near what you wanted it to be, really. And now you're really ready for things to really ramp up. This could be your year. Of course, we cannot continue to do the same things we did last year. Some things would have worked really well, and that's great. You want to do those. But other things may have kind of got in the way and stopped you getting what you want out of your life, out of your business, stopped you from creating a life that you actually actively enjoy rather than just one that you feel you must live because this is the only way you can survive. Now, when I say fight for, I do mean that. I do mean that. I am all, if you've been in my community for any length of time, you know I'm all about the warrior thing because yeah, life doesn't generally tend to get dropped to us. I mean, life does happen to us whether we like it or not, but a good life that really gives us everything that we want, we have to choose. We have to fight for. It doesn't just happen by chance. Unfortunately, what happens by chance is not always what we want. So if we want something better for 2015, we have to fight for it, okay? It's time for you, yeah, if financial freedom is your goal this year, then why not? If it's that you need to make that extra $5,000 or £3,000 or more, maybe more for you, then, or maybe you want your relationships to work, your health to be whatever, because all of this stuff affects us. Most of us here are going to be small business owners or you're a professional transitioning into a business owner. And all of that stuff affects, okay? It's usually us and our business against the world. So all the stuff affects. So if we are going to fight for the business we want, we have to be very deliberate about the things that we do. And that's what this webinar is about this evening, ultimately. So it's having, you know, big ideas. If you're anything like me, which I'm sure you are, you have big ideas. You kind of, you know, you want more than what you're getting right now. And those big ideas don't always come easy, okay? We have to fight for them. So tonight, what can you expect? The idea is that we're going to go through some stuff that will make you a magnet to customer sales and profits. It may not be what you think it is, but we'll see what it is. Ultimately, the idea is that you come away from here with a bit more of a plan as to what you're, or at least a bit more of an idea of how to make that plan so that you become more of a magnet to customers, to sales, to profits, to a better life, ultimately, whatever that means for you. We discovered number one area for you to focus on that will ultimately amp up your productivity, your focus, your results. And yeah, know how to keep your business growing all year round, even when ultimately the excitement of, woohoo, this is January, yay, all fades away. So that you keep things moving forward rather than, oh my goodness, here we go again with another year that isn't working the way I want it to. We want to make sure that we start the year right and we keep it going right as well, okay? So who am I? That's my wonderful, lovely picture. Woohoo! With half my head cut off, which is always great. But who am I? I'm Rosemary Nonny Knight, as most of you know at this point, one hopes. And ultimately, I started my professional career really as a pharmacist. So I was kind of like that dude, except I was a girl in the middle there talking to people about their medication and trying to help them out with their stuff. That's what I ultimately trained as. And whilst doing that and doing the whole professional thing, which to me, when I started, I thought becoming a professional was going to be the end goal for a bit. But then I got there and realized, oh, well, it's not quite the way I thought it was going to play out. It's not, well, for one, I don't have as much money as I thought I was going to have because, yeah, I generated a whole lot of debt before I finished university, trying to keep everything going, trying to keep things together, even though I was working at some points full time at uni in order to keep on the course. But I became a pharmacist and thought everything was going to be fine, and it didn't quite work out that way. I wasn't satisfied with the way life was, but I was, at that point, I must admit, there was a part of me that thought, oh, well, this maybe is all life has to hand me, so maybe I should just kind of settle into it, even if there were dreams inside of me that didn't quite die. Basically, but I dabbled a bit at business because there was a part of me that always felt that I needed to do some kind of business thing. So I dabbled a little bit of business, but I never really committed at all, because when it comes down to it, pharmacy was cushy enough to kind of just about keep me going. So I didn't think that I should let that go in order to pursue more the kind of thing I would actually actively want to do. But things did come to a head in the end. Life progresses, you start to think about having children, all of that kind of stuff. And I was in a whole lot of debt, and there's a whole lot of African story before all of this, which I don't want to go into this evening. But it did mean that my finances were in a mess, okay? An absolute mess. My husband at that point was at uni. He wasn't earning anything at that point. I had brothers living with me, and I also had another lovely little girl living with me because she really needed somewhere to escape to for a little bit, which was great, but it did put additional pressure on me. And then I got pregnant, and I'm working 60, 70 hours, just, keeping my head above water. And at that point I realized, oh my goodness, I'm pregnant. And I'd always had this intention of putting my children in nursery almost as soon as they were born. But as soon as I got pregnant, that didn't seem to be a viable option anymore. Anyway, there's a whole long story to it, but ultimately things came to a head. I did have to declare bankruptcy. I had no idea what else to do at that point. I got into a whole lot of depression for a long time, gave birth to the remaining two children, so I have 3 kids now, and then woke up at the end of my 3rd child and realized, oh yeah, I am still broke. So burying my head in the sand isn't actually going to solve this problem. So what can I do that enables me to stay home with the kids and yet generate something of an income? My husband and I had to answer that question together, because yeah, he had to change the way he did things. I had to change the way I did things. And for me, the solution was property. So property was one of my solutions. That I would start up a property business. I could take the girls to viewings. I can do things with them. I can, or hide them away whilst answering the phone, or hide them in the car whilst going to speak to estate agents and hope that they didn't keep me too long so I could run back to the car again. All that kind of thing. So it was an interesting period of time, but I was committed this time. I looked at my kids. They were my big why. I was very committed that this time business was going to work for me, and it did. Ultimately, I did a wonderful course because I knew as well, as soon as I decided I was going to do pharmacy properly, that I wasn't going to be dabbling this time. I was actually going to commit to working in a mastermind group, get the training I needed, learned everything I needed to know about property and the different strategies available to me. Got to the end of the year in that mastermind, won this wonderful Porsche because they decided that I had actually worked really hard, which, you know what, I had. So I won this Porsche, which was pretty cool. And so I really built up that business. But even after winning that Porsche, I went on then to join another mastermind group where I got to brainstorm, share ideas with people, and that enabled me to double my property business very quickly. And that really got me to financial freedom, where I was able to actually leave my pharmacy completely at that point. And all of this happened fairly quickly, but the difference for me was that I got really committed. And that will always be the difference for you as well. It's almost like you draw a line in the sand and you decide, this is it. I am not going back. And that's how I feel. There is no back to me. In fact, I've given up my registration as a pharmacist now. So I don't have the option of just saying, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and get a few hours at work and that will solve some problems. No, it's kind of like I drew a line in the sand. In fact, I did. And there was no going back. I was very committed. I am very committed that the things that I do and the life that I am designing is going to suit. I am no longer going to settle for something that didn't completely make me happy or enable me to live to my full potential. And we all have to come to that conclusion at some point, that we are going to not just settle for whatever life hands us, but we're actually going to design a life and a business, because our business fits into that life. And to me personally, business is one of the easiest ways. Well, no, it's not easy. No, I can't say easiest way, but it's the simplest way to actually have freedom. Okay, freedom to choose how you do things, when you do things, what you do, and all of that. Business allows you to do that. So for me, I just think business is just amazing. Okay, so that's a bit of my story as we go on into this webinar, where ultimately I really do want to give you as much as I can this evening to make sure that you too can create, can fight for the business that you want and actually make it happen. Because I am one of the most normal people on the planet, and sometimes I can be one of the most fearful people on the planet. And I know for a lot of people, their fears stop them from doing the things that they know that they must do. And so you just kind of coast at one level for forever, instead of kind of stretching yourself, instead of choosing to do the thing that scares you just that little bit in order to accelerate your growth. We all have to do that. I still remember actually building my property business and sitting in the car and shouting to myself, she who dares wins, she who dares wins, she who dares wins. And then I'd run out to the car and go and speak to whoever it is that I was absolutely petrified about speaking to. And that is how I expanded my circle of influence. That's how I expanded my business, all of that, because if we keep doing the same stuff, we will keep getting the same results. So if there is any part of you that isn't satisfied with what you're getting, then you do need to fight for that business that you want. Fight for that life you want, okay? It will not just come. It will come when you deliberately go after it, okay? And that's what I had to do, and that's what we all have to do, okay? We all have to face the fears. We have to face the feelings of overwhelm that do come when there's so much to do and you just don't even know where to start and all of that stuff. I get it. I do. And yet we must go beyond. Okay, so let's get straight into this. The first thing I suppose I wanted to talk about here, the first of 5 things that I'm actually going to be talking through with you, is this. It's the beginning of the year. It is great to get clarity about what you're creating. I always get stunned and amazed sometimes when I ask people what they want and they don't know. Okay, they have general ideas of grandeur, general ideas of this, that, and the other, and that maybe they might want this or maybe they might want that, but there is no crystal clear clarity about what they want to create. This is, again, I have to keep coming back to the fact that this is the beginning of the year. It's a great time to really get clear on what you want. Now, one of the best ways I have found to help people get clear on what they want is, first of all, actually to start with what they do not want, okay? What don't you want? Because sometimes in answering the question of what you don't want, you find it easier to then answer the question of what you do want. You do start to get that clarity that you want around your life. So what don't you want? Start there. Okay. So make a list. So, okay, you're probably not going to do it right now whilst I'm speaking to you, but I would exhort you to get a journal. If you don't already keep a journal, start to keep a journal. But I would exhort you to, first of all, make a list, what I don't want anymore. And it starts with little things like, oh, I don't even want to clean my house, or I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Just think of all the things, because we find it easier to think about the things we don't want. So write them out. Make a list of things you don't want. Then go on to the next step, because now that you've got the stuff out that you don't want, maybe you've kind of started to uncover what you do want. Then very quickly make a list of what you do want. What would a good day look like in your perfect life? In your perfect business, what would that look like? What would your business look like? Okay, if we're fighting for this business, what is it that you want out of this business? Write it down. Does it excite you? Does it make you feel scared that, oh, maybe I won't get it? Is that why you're not very clear on it? Because you're a bit worried that there's actually no way for you to get there? Is that the truth? I would suggest to you that no, it is not actually the truth. You do have the ability to very clearly create whatever you decide that you're going to create, but you have to decide that you're creating it, one. So make it very clear that this is what I want. And it's quite surprising what happens when you start to write down your goals, when you start to spend some time visualizing those goals as well. So it's not just writing them down, but visualizing them. Some people do things like vision boards, where they kind of get pictures of what they want to create, so that it's staying in your mind all the time. As I've already said, we spend a lot of time thinking about the stuff that we don't want. And that is in our mind most of the time. And so it's not surprising that sometimes we get more of the stuff we don't want, because we spend a lot of time thinking about it. So that's why I started with trying to get that out of our heads, what we don't want. And then we start to create what we do want. Okay, so now visualize what you do want. Of course, getting clarity around it. I'm sure you've all heard about things like SMART goals, because this is ultimately goal setting, but taking it to a whole new level. But you want to get very specific about what you want. You want to make sure it's measurable. So you might have some goals like, I want to be more patient this year with my staff, with my children, with my partner, whatever. That isn't, you can't say, okay, yes, I'm now 20% more patient or something. You can't really necessarily qualify it, but you can give yourself a scale. Yeah, so you would have to do something to measure it. So how patient do I feel I'm being today? Okay, I'll give myself a 9 out of a 10, or I'll give myself a 1 out of a 10 at the moment, and I'm aiming to get to a 5 out of a 10. So most of the time I am not yelling like a crazy person. I am instead dealing with people patiently. Of course, those are the more qualitative type goals. And then there's the quantitative ones, which are plain and simple. I want to make sure that I'm earning this much money at the end of the year. Write it out. Don't get scared by the big numbers. Write them down so that your brain can get to work on creating it. But you have to get very clear that this is, in fact, what you want. And if you are starting with a very huge goal, now, if you are in my community, hopefully you have received, or you will receive, some free training on goal setting, which will help you start to get very clear on what you want to create. So if you haven't listened to that already, I would exhort you to go into your emails and check for that particular email. And if you don't have it yet, you will get it. As long as you're in my community, you will get that email that helps you just get very clear on what you're trying to do. If you do have very huge goals, just break them down so you start to work towards it little by little by little. But the first thing that you must do is get very clear on what you are trying to do with your business, with your life. Get very clear about it. Write it down. Keep it at top of mind all the time, so you're always taking steps towards it. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk with you about is, yeah, you do need to have a strategy. That's the next thing. We do want to have some kind of plan around how we're going to create this. Okay? You want to have a strategic plan. So you now know, you spent some time really getting clear on what you're trying to create in this 2015. The next step is to break that down sufficiently into steps that you can then start to implement in a way that doesn't frighten the life out of you, but in a way that you know from day to day exactly what it is that you are going to be doing. Sometimes I ask my clients, if you could break this down into like 3 main chunks, what would they be? So I ask you that question. So you know your goals, you know what you want to see by December 2015, what you want your business, let's just talk about business somewhat, what you want your business to look like. So if you broke it down into 3 main steps, what would they be? Just by asking yourself that question, you again are getting your brain into gear. Most of the answers you actually need are hidden inside of you. You just need to kind of drag them out and put together a plan, put together a plan that you can then start to implement. Nothing too scary, just big enough for you to stretch yourself and start to see things moving forward, okay? So you can do it as a 3-stage plan. You can do it as a 90-day plan, so break the year into 4 and decide this first 3 months, this is what I'm going to have done. Then you can look at it, review it, and think, okay, what else do I need to do in the next 90 days? Maybe for you, you just want a 1-week plan. You don't want to be thinking 90 days, it seems too much in the future. Or even that 90-day plan, you can then bring it back down to a 1-week plan or a 1-day plan. Sometimes asking yourself, what can I do in the next 5 minutes that will get me closer to my goals? Will mean that you're not procrastinating. You just find something you can do in 5 minutes that will take you closer to your goals, and you do it. Okay? So you want to put together an action plan and try to do it prior to the day so that you know what you need to be getting on with. Because one of the things I mentioned that we're going to be covering here is to make sure your business keeps growing even when the excitement of it flees. The one way to do that is to not wait. If you're anything like me, I come to the evening when I know that, oh yes, the day has ended, basically depending on what kind of a day I've had. And at that point, I feel like, yeah, I can do anything now that I don't have to do it immediately. So then is my best time for making plans for the next day, because at that point I think, yes, anything is possible, so let's do it. So for me, the night before, just making a plan for the next day is great, because the next day when I look at this plan and I'm thinking, oh my Lord, I just do it because I've planned it, so just do it. But if you wait until the day when you're already beginning to feel a little bit like, oh my goodness, I feel so overwhelmed, then you will not make a plan that will move you forward. So decide when is your best time, when you feel best, because that's when you make your best plans, okay? Not when you're feeling all constricted and scared, because then you make really small, not really good plans, okay? So decide on the best time of the day for you to create a strategy for the next day, for the next week. So however long you decide that you want your plans to work, I just think that, no, I don't just think, I know that the best way to do this is to make sure that you're looking at your goals very regularly so that they are top of mind more than the things that you hate about life. And then you are creating plans with that in your mind. So what is your strategy? Spend some time thinking through, spend a little bit of time writing this stuff down, or put it on your phone. If you're really not a writer, type it into your computer. Do something where you can then look at it and say, okay, what have I done? What have I not done? What is my reason for not having done it? And when am I going to have done it by? So that you are giving yourself, you are challenging yourself to keep moving forward all the time. Okay, on to the next one. Upgrading your skills. This year, if you really want to make things happen, you need to upgrade your skills. However, the idea is not to spend, unfortunately, and you know what, I've fallen into this trap before, where when I was a business dabbler, most of the time, you'd spend a lot of time learning this and learning that, which maybe you do need to learn, that's fine, but sometimes even the learning can become a distraction for you, okay? So you want to be very deliberate, I love the word deliberate, about how you choose what you need to upgrade in terms of your skills, okay? So what would help you accelerate your business this year? Think about it, make a list of things that you know that you are not that great at the moment, and make a list of the things that you want to learn, then prioritize those things so that you are learning more, you are upgrading your skills. Because the thing is this, you might be, for instance, if you're in sales or you're doing some, you're having to sell some stuff. So you know that if you speak to, at the moment, if you speak to 100 people, you will get 2 people to buy from you. So maybe you are doing the work, and maybe last year you're working your bum off, ultimately doing the work, you were speaking to 100 people, you're getting those 2 sales. But imagine you upgraded your skills so that instead of only getting 2 people to convert into sales or into buyers or customers, you were now converting 20 of those 100. Imagine how much of a difference that would make to your business. So maybe you need to consider things like communication skills. Maybe you need to consider things like sales skills. Maybe you need to consider things like time management, because by upgrading some of your skills, you will accelerate the growth of your business and your personal growth, okay? So, but be very deliberate about what you choose to spend your time accelerate or upgrading, okay? Now, today, actually, I was at a meeting earlier, a networking event with a wonderful dude called Samuel Leeds, and he talked about strengths and weaknesses, which for upgrading your skills, that is quite relevant to you. What are your strengths? Write them out. What are your weaknesses? Write those out as well. So the thing is that people get caught up in trying to improve their weaknesses. And the truth is, sometimes you don't have to be good at everything, okay? You need to know what you are strong at, and the things that you are strong at, you want to do more of that stuff, and you want to upgrade your skills when it comes to the things that you are strong at. Because there's no point, something that you're maybe 10%, you have 10% ability at, so then you go and do lots of training and you get to what, 40% ability. Whereas you could, in theory, no, not in theory, you could actually work with someone else who started at that skill at 60%, and so training, that person will get them up to 100% and they'll be of more use to you that way. So when it comes to your weaknesses, so and when I say weaknesses, because some things maybe you are strong at and you actually actively, some things you might want to do, you might really, really want to do them, but actually you're weak at them. So don't. But there are some things that is part of your natural bent that you are good at, but you haven't spent that much time actually improving. But even if you spent a little bit of time at, you might start at the 10%, but it'd be really easy for you to get to a 90, because that is actually what you're naturally designed to do. And you'll know that because you feel in the flow where you're doing this thing, even though it isn't something that comes to you naturally. It's just like for me, okay, this doesn't really have much to do with my business, although sometimes you do hear me singing. But for me, music was my thing. But my parents decided that I was going to become a pharmacist, so the music side of things had to be battened down. But if I decided that I was going to become a musician, I know for me that it'd probably be easy for me to get my strengths up very quickly because it's part of who I am. And so I do use that in other parts of my life. However, for you, you need to consider what flows. So it's not just your current strengths, because maybe you've just made things strong because you felt you had to, even though you hate doing them. we're trying to design a life that we actually actively enjoy. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. So you need to kind of get really clear, which brings us back to clarity, about what you want to be spending most of your time doing, and then upgrading the skills that will enable you to do that. In terms of weaknesses, you should either delegate, you should partner with somebody else, or you should just scrap them. It's just like with my property management business. Yes, I accelerated it really quickly, and yet it got to a point where it's like, I really don't want to actually be doing this. I can do it, I just don't like it, ultimately. So yes, I partnered with my property manager so that he could take over most of it, and do the stuff that I didn't want to do, so that I could just do the stuff I didn't mind doing. I loved communicating with agents and with owners and that kind of thing. So I don't mind that. So I'm cool with doing that. I just didn't want to do most of the rest of it. And for you, that might be the thing. This year, it's a good time to start to clear out of your life, you know, that list you made, or the list you're going to make of all the things you don't want to do. Take them little by little and start discarding them from your life. Okay, just little by little. You don't have to do everything all at once, but if you took one thing like a month even, how much closer would you be to where you want to be by the end of the year? Sometimes we want everything to happen like that. We want the instant gratification. So we forget that if we just did a little bit at a time, it would make, in the end, a huge difference. So, coming back to upgrading your skills, what skills are really important for you this year to improve so that you do accelerate your business, so that you do start to learn how to, you know, attract more customers into your life. So you start to get more customers who are willing to put their money down, increasing your sales, increasing your profits, just by upgrading the right skills for you. And again, if you are in my community, you have my Get Their Attention, Make Them Buy book. If you have not read it, read it, guys. Read it, implement it. That is one way for you to upgrade your skills. Completely free as well. So read it, implement it, get your marketing working for you rather than not. Okay, so upgrade your skills. That's one really important thing for you to do. But remember, be very deliberate about what skills you are upgrading. There's lots of distractions, which actually brings me to my next point. There are lots of distractions if you do not get very deliberate about what you spend your time doing. So optimizing your environment this year, if you really do want to accelerate, you really need to look at your environment. And when I talk about environment, I am talking about things like, well, lots and lots of different things, truth be told. Where am I? So it's things like the people you hang around with, how you spend your time. Are you watching lots of TV a lot of the time? Which, you know what, fine, TV is good, can be a good relaxant, but it can also be a good time waster. So if you want to get different results this year, considering the different parts of your environment will make a big difference to you. And sometimes you have to be harsh about the people you're hanging around with. For the dreams, for the big dreams, if you want to go big, I was speaking to a client today and he wants to go big, man, this year. And it's like, if you want to go big this year, you cannot just keep doing the same stuff. You cannot keep hanging with the same people all the time. And you know what, maybe for a period of time, you do have to say to your friends that, look here, no, for a little period of time here, I may not be as available as I used to be because I have these goals, and the ones that care for you will get it. And the ones that don't, well, they don't. Are you going to then live your life to satisfy people who don't really get what you want to create? I would suggest not, but it's up to you, of course. But I would suggest that you want to, for a period of time, really accelerate things so that you get to live the rest of your life, most of your life, doing whatever you like. If you're starting out in business, you will have to invest a lot of time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, hey, there's some kind of way that you can just kind of work 2 hours a week and get yeah, everything you want. No, it took us a long time to get to this place where we're not necessarily getting what we want. So in order for us to get what we want, we will have to invest a lot of time to start up with. But I'm not saying like 40 years or something like the normal way is, oh yeah, I'm just going to work my 40 years and then hopefully retire. No, I am saying there is a period of time. For me, it was like 18 months. I worked very hard in order to be able to do things like home educate my children, to never have to go to being a pharmacist again, and all of that stuff. But it was 18 months, okay? For you, it might be shorter, it might be 24 months, but if you work the right way and you optimize your environment, you're upgrading your skills, it can be a very short period of time. Then you have the rest of your whatever to then carry on living this life you've designed. Okay, but carrying on with this optimizing your environment, but it's also things like your physical environment. So even your body, thinking about your being healthy. The truth is, if we're not healthy, our businesses ain't gonna grow. So taking the time to make sure that we are looking after ourselves is quite useful, which gets tough when you have a lot of stuff to do in terms of building your business, but it is well worth it to make sure, because without our health, we cannot keep going. So we want to optimize our environment, our physical life, our technology. Yeah, there's phones and I mentioned TV already, our computers, the internet, all of this stuff, distraction. My phone is practically always on silent. Very occasionally, people will mysteriously get me on the phone, but generally you have to leave me a message and I'll get back to you when it suits. Generally, I try and encourage people to send me emails because phone calls can be very distracting. And if you have your smartphone on and it's bleeping at you every time Facebook does something and this and that and the other, it's difficult to focus in and get some work done. Again, this is about being very, very deliberate about how we spend our time, what we allow to interrupt our focus time, what we allow into our brains, what television you're listening to. I had my wonderful childminder asking me again today about TV and how much, and whether I watch the news or something. And I'm like, I don't really watch the news ever. Really, in fact, no, I don't ever, unless I'm at someone else's house and it's on. I don't ever watch the news because, yeah, I don't want that stuff in my head. I don't actually want to be overly influenced by any of that. I want to just kind of have my goals and keep moving forward towards them. If there is some kind of worldwide crisis, I know that somebody will tell me. Ultimately. So you don't need to be listening to everything and then you're just kind of going along with wherever the media is taking you and it becomes a distraction. But then also, what do you need to add into your life to ensure that it's moving you forward? What books are you reading? The books you read, the people you hang out with will determine where you're at in the next 5 years. This is something I think Jim Rohn said, or Zig Ziglar, who knows? But it's the truth. The books I have read have changed me completely. And the books you read, if you're spending lots of time reading trash, then that is what will come out of your head. But at the same time, if you spend lots of time reading things that will empower, inspire, yeah, upgrading your skills through books, that is a viable option. That is the kind of thing that will ensure that this year for your business, for you start to see some seriously different results, okay? We've mentioned briefly, who are you hanging out with? Again, what can you add into your life? If you haven't ever worked with anyone, if you haven't ever worked with a coach or a mastermind group, maybe this is your year to do that. Maybe you've done this whole trying to do it all on your own thing, trying to ask your friends and family for help and assistance, and you are not quite where you want to be. If you read that book, actually, some people did some research, and one of the 12 mistakes business owners make is actually listening to their friends and family about their business. Why would you choose to listen to people who are not doing the same as you or who haven't gone the way you want to go? That is a distraction. Okay, that is a distraction. You will start to hear their fears about what you are doing because they're worried that it will hurt you. And you know what? Maybe it is out of caring, loving kindness, but it will still make you feel distracted. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Do you have any mentors that you can actually call on? Do you have any coaches who know you and also are able to kind of move you forward even when you're kind of in this spiral of, oh my goodness, what's happening? Do you have a team around you? Maybe you need to start working with a virtual assistant this year. Maybe you need to start outsourcing some of the stuff you're doing. Even I have to outsource the stuff I'm doing, and it is, oh, that's another thing Samuel Leeds said this morning, actually, about how to determine whether whether it's time to outsource or get somebody in. It's determining what your hourly rate is. If the hourly rate for you is higher than paying a VA, then pay the VA, honey. Simple and short. Pay the VA so you can get on with doing the stuff that you want to be doing that pays you more. Okay? So optimizing your environment. What do you need to take out? What do you need to put in to ensure that you are moving forward the way you really want to, that you are designing this life that you really actually want? Okay, and then on to, where are we at? What time is it? Okay, managing your mind. Now this is a big E, and it's one that people generally tend to think it's irrelevant because they think, oh no, we just need to do it. If that was the truth, then you would just be doing it. Everybody would just be doing it. But the truth is, business is simple. You know, you ultimately, there is a cycle you go through. You kind of get a product that people want. You expose it to those people at a price that they're willing to pay and a price that will give you profit. They buy it, you make some money, you do it all over again. Simple. But it's not that simple. We get involved, people get involved. If machines were doing business, it would be fairly simple, but it's not machines doing it, it's people. We, the business owners, it can be a pressured thing to start up your business. You like what you do. You don't necessarily like marketing what you do. And we have to learn to market what we do. That is definitely a skill we have to learn. There's just no way around it. But in order for us to do that, we have to be willing to face down our fears, our limiting beliefs, whatever. And that's where managing your mind comes in. There was this whole book written by a woman called Carol Dweck or something about the different mindsets. There's a fixed mindset and the growth mindset, as you can see in that picture there. And yeah, you can see the qualities that you would have depending on what kind of a mindset you have. And of course, as you read through that, you'll realize that you need to have a growth mindset, one that recognizes that nothing is stuck in stone. Your personality, and I know some people think that their personality is stuck and you're born with this personality and you can never do anything to change it. I beg to differ. I think we get to create whatever we want to create out of this life experience that we have. And yeah, so I suppose I would fit into the growth mindset. So where do you fit in? Because if you don't believe, if you can't find it in yourself to believe that you can create the stuff that you wrote about in the first part of this talk, then you won't. And it's by facing and managing our minds, it enables us then to take the strides we need to take in order to move ourselves forward. I know for me, for a very long time, I did live with a fixed mindset. I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to be a pharmacist for the rest of my life, and I'll do the fun stuff that I really want to do just at the weekend or in the evening and that kind of a thing. And that was it. That was going to be my life. I just thought I just need to settle into just being this pharmacist and just stay put and, just be comfortable and all of that. Except, yeah, I was in a lot of debt. I wasn't that comfortable ultimately, but I could have just carried on and just done the whole send my children to nursery and all of that stuff. But I finally decided that, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be my story. Again, I could have done that with the property stuff because, yeah, it was making me loads of money. I'd built this thing up. I was very proud of myself again, that, oh, yes, I've done this business thing. Yay, making lots of money. but recognize this wasn't completely for me. So again, it's like, yeah, well, you know what? I've done this other things. I've faced these challenges down. I can face new ones. I can expand. I can actually design a life that I actively like. And I'm on the journey to doing that ultimately. And we're each on our own individual journey, but sometimes there is a tendency to want to just stay comfortable and just stay, oh, at least this is a safe place. Because we don't want to face our fears, our limiting beliefs. We start to get distractions in the way. We start to think we need to learn the wrong things. We don't get clear about what we want. We don't put a plan together because we're a bit worried that if we put a plan together, we will not actually get it. But the truth is, the very things you avoid doing sometimes are the very things you need to do that will make your life simpler. But on your own, sometimes you don't see that. On your own, you don't see that because you get caught up in all the overwhelm. You get caught up in the doubt that you can ever make it happen. You get caught up in the who knows what. And so you're not doing the things that will make you a magnet to your customers, that will make you increase your sales, that will make you increase your profits, increase your personal income so that you can start to create a really fun life for you and your family. That will enable you to be a business owner rather than someone that works inside the business all the time. So you're never free to be who you want to be. And maybe you do enjoy doing the thing. That's fine. You can design your business in such a way that you still have the freedom around it. But when you're caught up in fear and limiting stuff, it's difficult to really believe that you can live a different way. And I know this because I was caught up in that for a very large part of my life. And for some of you, that is the story. But it's time that we start to manage our minds. We start to do the actual real work. But the only way you'll even see that real work is either you're working with someone else or that you face down, you start to manage your mind so that you can expand into making better choices about what you need to do this year to ensure that your business is what you want it to be, so that when you're actually being very productive because you're doing, you've upgraded your skills, so you're getting better results out of everything you do, one, and you also know the right things that you should be doing rather than just doing everything because you think you need to do everything all the time. But it's as we manage our mind, we can make clear decisions on what we need to do to move forward. Okay, so those are the 5 things I particularly wanted to talk about with you, and I will go back over them here. So it's getting very clear. It is putting together a plan, a strategic plan. It is upgrading the right skills. It is optimizing your environment. What do you need to take out? What do you need to put in? And it is managing your mind, making sure that you do live with a growth mindset. Okay, so it's time for us all to leave 2014 behind. That is a picture of me leaving actually Africa behind. That was in 96 actually. But for us, for each one of us, we need to, in some ways you want to celebrate your wins from 2014, but you also want to look at the things that didn't go quite so well. And then you want to leave that stuff behind. Take the lessons, leave the rest behind. Okay, and then move into 2015 knowing that this year you are going to do things differently. You are going to be very clear. You are going to have a plan. You are going to upgrade the right skills. You are going to optimize your environment. You are going to manage your mind. You're going to do whatever it takes this year to ensure that you manage your mind, to ensure that you create the business that will give you the freedom that you want. So, I mean, I've talked about some of the reasons people give and the reasons that I had for not getting to where I wanted to go, the overwhelm, the feeling of no time because we're not prioritizing right. And that was me. And some days I have to be very, some days I get overwhelmed and then I would speak to my coach. I speak to my coach, be part of because I'm part of a mastermind group as well. And I will, I need to get outside input inside of me. And for me personally, I would never try and do this whole business thing on my own because I did it. And that made me a dabbler rather than someone that was actually moving forward. So I would suggest that doesn't have to be me, of course, that you do find someone that you can work with. It might even just be another business owner that you're working with. That's fine. But you want to get to the point where somebody else is looking in who is going the same direction as you, so that they can give you some clarity to help you, because you will get overwhelmed, okay? You will feel like you have no time. There will be days that you feel like this whole big dream that I have, it's not possible for me. There will be people telling you that you can't do it. They might be telling you out of love, but it'll still be weighing you down. There will be feelings of, I have no money, and I know that one so well, honey. But for me, I had to make the choice to make sure I invest in the right place, because I am my greatest asset. You are your greatest asset. Whatever you invest in yourself, you can start to create over and over and over again. So never allow money to be the thing that stops you from investing in yourself. When you allow yourself, you will always find a way to come up with money. I can assure you of that. It will not always feel easy, but it is always possible. Especially if you live in, these first world countries. There's a part of me that lived in Africa, and it's like, I can see why sometimes in Africa you might feel that. But even in Africa, the truth is there is always a way. There is always a way, but sometimes we buy into our own stories, and I did that for a long time. But if we want 2015 to be more, we cannot do that anymore. We cannot give in to the fear. We cannot try and do the whole lone wolf thing and do it all on our own. We have to work with others. None of us was created to be an island. We have to work with others, okay? Just accept that as the truth. We have to work with others, but we need to be very picky about who those others are. Ultimately, we need to be very picky about that. So for me, I know masterminding made a huge difference to me, being part of the League of Warriors, actually, because I was part of the League of Warriors, and that made a huge difference to me. Me and 4 other people in a room just hashing out the stuff. So when I come with my story and they're like, yeah, that's just a story, and it's like, oh, maybe it is then, fine. This is the tasks I'm going to do this month, and blah, 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 blah. And my business did actually double within 3 months. So I know that whole mixing of brains, and 1 + 1 is no longer just 2, it becomes a lot more than 2. But when you're trying to do it on your own, yeah, it gets tough, honey. Okay, I try to put on different places for people to kind of come. Like I have the Wealthy Warrior Alliance as well, where you have the option of getting other people's input into you, but you have to choose it. Okay, you have to choose it. You have to choose to put yourself in a place where you are masterminding with the right people, though. You really don't want to be masterminding with the wrong people. That will just drag you down. And that you see quite regularly, where people are just putting together their negative thoughts, and it's just going down and down and down. And by the end of it, everybody's just quit. Ultimately, I remember selling books door to door. And yeah, there was a group of us that just felt, oh, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. And then we all quit. So, but it can work the other way. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and we do it. Woo! That works. And that worked for me with the League of Warriors. So I do want to talk to you about the League of Warriors. I did actually mention that in my first email to you. The thing is, at the end of this month, we will be starting a new group of the League of Warriors, because I took this over from my coach, because it worked so incredibly well for me. I doubled my business. I left pharmacy. My relationships got better. My health got better. It was just like, oh my goodness. It did actually make a huge difference to my financial life. It made a huge difference to my business. It made a huge difference to what I do and me. And so I took it over when he decided he didn't want to do this anymore. And it's the League of Warriors. And I'll just talk you through what that looks like for you, because I've made it a lot more structured, because I want to make sure that by the end of the year, that everybody has got at least an extra, what did I call it? I do quantify it, but I can't remember what I quantify it as. But I want to make sure that everybody's making an extra, I think it is 3,000, yes, 3,000 pounds or $5,000 at least. For most people, that would make a huge difference to their lives. Most people have been struggling with their businesses for a long time and can't even get it to the first 4 figures. They can't get it to 1,000 a month. So what if you could, by the end of this year, definitely be making at least 3,000 a month if you're in UK, or 5,000 if you're in the US? What difference would that make to your life? Okay. So the League of Warriors, let me talk you through what happens. Now, if you decide that you want to be part of this, the first thing that we would do together is have a wealth creation and impact planning session. Actually, before I carry on with this, if you do have any questions about anything I've mentioned today, do type them in the chat box. And as soon as I finish this bit, I will go into there. If there's any questions, I'll answer that before I leave, or I'll send you a message or whatever. But wealth creation and impact planning session, that will be the first thing we do together before we start the league. I want to make sure that we have an individualized plan for you. We talked about strategy, how you need a strategic plan. We want to make sure we've put that in place so that when you come to the first session, this is what we're holding you accountable to. But we've individualized it for you. You spend that time with me. We create that plan together. I hear what you want to put together, and I make sure that we have a plan getting you there by the end of the year. That's the first thing we do together. You get the Mastermind Sessions. There is going to be an online, there is an offline version of this, but I'll keep it simple for now. There are Mastermind Sessions where everybody kind of gets the opportunity. There will be a hot seat for everyone, particularly in the offline sessions. Once a month, we get together 5 business owners in the room. Each person gets an hour or so where it's all about you. It's all about your stuff. It's all about putting strategies together with people from different industries. So it isn't just you trying to figure it out alone. It's us giving you ideas to make sure that you're moving forward. It's us holding you accountable. And it's incredible what you do when you know you have to walk into a room and say, oh, well, I didn't do that. Basically, you suddenly find yourself doing the stuff, okay? So there's the Mastermind Sessions, which will start with a little bit of a training thing, and then it goes into the hot seats and all of that stuff. There's the one-on-one sessions with me. You get that support as well, where there's just one-on-one with me during the month as well, where you get that. All of this doesn't take that much time, but I do want to make sure that you have a blanket of support and it's not just you trying to figure it out alone. Okay, there's accountability, there's a strategy, it's profit, and it's getting over the whole procrastination thing. There's the business training programs. I generally tend to do different programs through the year. You'll be part of all of those so that you're upgrading your skills the whole way through the year, rather than just kind of doing the same old thing that you did last year and not getting anywhere quickly. And then there's the retreats. There will be at least 2 in the coming year, where it will be 2 days away from the overwhelm of life, away from all of that stuff, where we just focus in on being recharged, getting the plan up and ready, getting ready to go back into the world, knowing that you feel a lot clearer. You've been away from it all, so you can think clearer about your business and you can know what to do in order to accelerate it and move it forward, okay? So yeah, that's to summarize it all. There is the wealth creation impact planning session. There's the mastermind retreats. There's the mastermind sessions. There's the business training programs. There's the one-on-one sessions and the Wealthy Warrior Alliance, because you'll be part of that as well. And you're getting the training that comes along with that and all of that. So that does total around about $24,000. Am I going to charge you anywhere near that? Absolutely not. No, I'm not. So in order for you to find out more about this, now, as I say, we're starting a new group. We're starting new groups at the last week of this month. There's only a few spaces because I like to keep it intimate. Okay, so I want you to get in touch with me. And the way you do that actually is to, we have to have a conversation. So I figure out whether this actually will work for you or whether something else would be better or whatever. And it's rosemarynonniknight.com/strategy session. I'll say that again. It's rosemarynonniknight.com/strategy session. Now, as I've said to you already, the League of Warriors for me was life-changing. This year could be that for you. What difference would it make to you to be earning very consistently an extra £3,000? An extra more than that. Depends on the size of your business, of course, but you might want more. But for some of you, an extra 3,000 would be the great big difference for you and your family out of your own business. So this is a kind of a weird combination of, it's not weird, but I like to say weird, a weird combination of both personal development and business development. Because sometimes we get caught up in the whole personal growth thing and you're not doing the stuff. We read books like Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, if you only think about it, you ain't getting there. You need to actually think Act, then get rich, okay? So this is the League of Warriors will enable you to do both. It's about getting your mind in gear, but it's also about taking the right actions that will get you the results that you want, so that by the end of this year, you're looking back and thinking, oh my goodness, life has changed so much. I know that was my story, and I know it can be your story as well. Working with clients, I'm just amazed at the strides they make. So I know that if we have that conversation, I know that, well, I only put the right people into the groups and the results you get are amazing. But that's enough for now. So rosemarynonnyknight.com/strategy session. If that is something that you want to do, or just send me an email to info@rosemarynonnyknight.com. That works too. And I'm just popping back over to see who is out there. Oh no, somebody lost me. I'm not sure when. Unfortunately, I hope you found me again. I don't know. But that is it for this evening. I don't have any questions from you. Of course, you can send me through an email to info@rosemarynonnyknight.com, or yeah, just apply for a strategy session. It would be great to hear from you. There are a few slots remaining, so just send me through that message and we'll just have a conversation. There is no obligation to actually do anything immediately, but I do want to make sure that you you get the opportunity to have a look and see whether this could make a difference to you for this coming year. In 12 months, everything could be different. Okay, it's been fun speaking to you this evening. It's been absolutely amazing, actually, talking you through this stuff. If you do have any questions, I will stick around for a few more seconds. But thank you for spending this evening with me, and I look forward to speaking to you again, potentially privately. Until the next time. Bye.